The King's Avatar, Chapter 1698. Steamed Buns Santos. Audio source, WushAudiobook.com. Chapter 1698. Steamed Buns Santos. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Opening. Fang Minghua had been searching for an opening the entire time, but this one was by far the closest to him yet. Cloudpiercer's bullets rained down. Fang Minghua could practically see the bullets flying past Laughing Song's eyes. Happy wouldn't retreat. Even if they had to take damage, they had to kill Laughing Song. But under Cloudpiercer's firepower, how could it be so easy to just tank the damage? Reinforced iron bones. The newly subbed-in steamed bun was quick-witted. The moment Josekai attacked, his steamed bun invasion activated reinforced iron bones. With super armor, his rhythm wouldn't be broken no matter how dense the rain of bullets. At worst, he would take more damage. The breakthrough point would have to be Soft Mist. Fang Minghua began paying more attention to Soft Mist's side. He watched Laughing Song's health carefully. Every second felt like a year. This was a match point. If Samsara could successfully rescue Laughing Song, Samsara would almost certainly win. The countless Samsara fans among the crowd stood up from their seats. Whether or not their team could lock in the win gripped their hearts. Closer, closer. They parted in their hearts. Because they could see that at this distance, Cloudpiercer's offense wasn't threatening enough. A bit closer and his gunfire would be more dense, and he would be able to rely on charring together his attacks to fully suppress Soft Mist's attacks. Or perhaps because she tried too hard to dodge, her rhythm would get messed up, and Fang Minghua would be able to find an opportunity to rescue himself. Advance. This was the conviction in Josekai's heart. Opening. This was what Fang Minghua hoped for. He would never give up until the end. Tang Rou began feeling the pressure. Steamed Bun immediately activated reinforced iron bones. He wasn't feeling any pressure on his end, but that also meant that he was pushing it all onto Tang Rou. Josekai obviously wasn't going to waste his time trying to stop a super-armored character. Maybe Bao Rangxing shouldn't have activated reinforced iron bones, Pan Lin said. Maybe. But even if he hadn't, it wouldn't have stopped Josekai from focusing on a single target, Li Yibo said. That's true. Pan Lin nodded his head. Maybe Bao Rangxing should try and protect Tang Rou. Li Yibo said. Her protection's already arrived, Pan Lin said. Yishu's Lord Grim rushed towards Cloudpiercer, firing at him. Josekai obviously saw him, but he had the same mentality as Tang Rou and Steamed Bun right now. Offense was his #1 priority. He would only deal with the attacks that would interfere with his offense. Hurry. There wasn't much time left. Once Yishu's Lord Grim got close to him, Josekai was certain that everything would end there. Yishu's Lord Grim sticking onto him was far more threatening than Anwenyi's little cold hands. He moved away, doing what he could to delay Lord Grim. He open-fired. This was the final sprint. There was only one chance left. Rapid firing, random firing, berserk firing. At this moment, Cloudpiercer activated every buff he had. Josekai didn't hold back, pushing his firepower to its peak. Success or failure would be decided here. Gatling gun. Cloudpiercer suddenly stood his ground. He stopped firing with his dual guns, instead pulling out a heavy machine gun. Under the various sharpshooter buffs, the bullets from Gatling gun were practically connected as they flew out like a ray of light. Tang Rou immediately recognized that she had to dodge no matter what. If the laser-like rain of bullets landed, she would likely be knocked back. Soft Mist dodged. The Gatling gun followed her. As the gun turned, the bullets were like an orderly flight of steps, creating an arc. The arc forced Soft Mist to move in one direction. An opening finally appeared in front of Laughing Song. Opening. The opening that he had been waiting for, who knew how long had come. At this moment, Fang Minghua's attention was entirely on Steamed Bun Invasion. He knew that the only one who could attack and stop him was Steamed Bun Invasion. He didn't have the ability to fight against Steamed Bun Invasion, but he could avoid him. He had to avoid him. Charge. Laughing Song charged towards that opening. However, his gaze was locked firmly onto Steamed Bun Invasion. Steamed Bun Invasion swung his fist as if it were a conditioned reflex. He sent a punch to intercept the fleeing Laughing Song. But no matter how fast his reaction speed was, it was just an ordinary punch, so ordinary that Fang Minghua nearly laughed. How easy. Fang Minghua quickly acted. Laughing Song leaned slightly to the side as he rushed forward. Steamed Bun Invasion missed. Fang Minghua obviously didn't think that it was over just because he had dodged this single punch. But with how easy it had been to avoid Steamed Bun Invasion's first attempt, he suddenly felt like he could see another opening on Steamed Bun Invasion. After one opening, another one followed. Fang Minghua surged with excitement. His fingers suddenly felt even lighter and nimbler than before. Laughing Song raised his cross, ready to cast an instant holy cure on himself. His situation before had been so dire that he hadn't even been able to cast an instant cast skill. Holy light gathered around his cross. Just before it shone onto Laughing Song, Steamed Bun Invasion's ordinary fist suddenly opened wide, releasing a handful of sand. Santos. The holy light extinguished. Fang Minghua couldn't describe what he was feeling with words. That punch was a sand toss. You can sand toss like that. If it's sand toss, then throw it earlier. Why would you clench your fist so tightly? If the hand holding the sand hit me, what would that have done? WuxaWorldAudio.com. Sand toss. Fang Minghua suddenly had countless questions about this common brawler skill. Laughing Song had already been hit by the sudden sand toss. Fang Minghua hadn't been able to react to it in time. His screen turned dark. A max-leveled sand toss had a 100% chance to blind if it hit the face. The effect lasted 8 seconds. The countless Samsara fans closed their eyes. 8 seconds of blind. Laughing Song had no chance of escaping anymore. Josekai had created an opening for him, but Fang Minghua could only rely on himself to take it. However, with 8 seconds of blind, there was no hope left for Fang Minghua. What the fuck? He can't even dodge a sand toss. Countless players cursed. The pro players were speechless. This sand toss. What should they say? It felt like a joke. It could be considered a cheese, a cheap play by a normal player. But Steamed Bun had brought this cheese to the highest stage on Glory, extinguishing Fang Minghua's last hopes. Unlucky. Everyone could sympathize with Fang Minghua. Now that everyone had seen it, everyone felt like they could easily deal with it. Against this delayed sand toss, you could dodge or interrupt it, easy as pie. But Fang Minghua was the first to be cheesed. When he saw that punch, the thought of it being a sand toss probably hadn't even crossed his mind, and because of that, what should have been child's play ended his life. Apart from sympathy, the pro players could only give him their sympathy. Pan Lin and Li Yibo didn't know what to say. It was such an important match point, and it was resolved through a little trick. This decisive match was filled with all sorts of weirdness. But in the end, Fang Minghua's time was over. Praying for Josekai to pull off another miracle was hopeless. Yishu's Lord Grim had reached Cloud Piercer. With Lord Grim's mobility, Josekai's Cloud Piercer had no way to kite him. The two began an intense duel. Not long afterwards, Samsara's laughing song died. For both teams, the first to die was the healer. Everyone had faith in the words, "Whoever controlled the enemy healer, controlled the match." Now that both healers were dead, who knew what direction the match would move towards? At least, it would still be a 5v5. However, many of the viewers felt somewhat strange when they saw the names of Happy's characters. Coincidentally, all of these people happened to be players from the 10th server. Lord Grim, Soft Mist, 1-inch Ash, Steamed Bun Invasion. Only Dancing Rain was slightly off. But the others wasn't this the team in the 10th server that had set countless dungeon records? End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1699. What a Brawler. Audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1699. What a Brawler. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Today, the 10th server players were no longer noobs. Many of them had reached the heavenly domain, and begun their higher-level journey there. But whether they'd gone to the heavenly domain or remained in the 10th server, any gamer who had experienced that pioneering period in the 10th server could never forget the dungeon record war at that time. Even if every server would experience a period like that, even if most people were only bystanders, no new server's dungeon records had ever been so thoroughly dominated by the same people. The records they achieved seemed to symbolize eternity. And now, the names that had left these records appeared in the ultimate battle of the finals. Neat and orderly, just like the original, a team with no healer, only DPS. Dancing Rain, Cleansing Mist. The names of these two accounts weren't the same, but they were the same class. The names used the same characters. By now, everyone had basically guessed that the Cleansing Mist of that time had been used by the person currently playing Dancing Rain, Suma Chung. For a pro player to go for a normal server's dungeon record, many people would suspect them of bullying normal players. If this had been exposed at that time, Suma Chung probably would have suffered all sorts of condemnation. But now, the situation was different. Everyone had witnessed Happy as this team grew, step by step. The dungeoning team that had swept those records, that had been their earliest form. Now, they stood upon glory's highest stage. The players who had started in the 10th server, who had been only noobs back then, were thoroughly moved. They had never experienced any glory history before the 10th server. They had only heard about the past. They had never really been deeply affected by it, because it was at a distance. But Happy had risen suddenly from their 10th server, to stand on glory's ultimate battlefield. In their eyes, this team was a symbol of their era. This was a new team, who, in the middle of their era, had grown up with them, and burst forth. In this moment, countless 10th server players were blazing with passion. With Team Happy, they could truly feel immersed in this moment. Never before had a team left such a clear and heavy mark upon a server. Never before, never until now. This is our era, this is our symbol. 10th server. Many gamers who had come from the 10th server suddenly erupted with this cheer, confusing many other players. This kind of immersion, this kind of significance of a symbol, without experiencing it themselves, they could never understand. Even in the live audience, Samsara's home stadium, a commotion rose up. Of course, a number of Samsara fans had come from the 10th server as well. However, although the sight of these names may have caused memories to resurface, these gamers would not change sides because of this. The match continued. A list of characters could not kill an opponent. Yishu and Josukai were fighting, and it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. Suma Chung and Zhang Boteo were circling, although Dancing Rain was clearly moving closer to Lord Grim's side, trying to establish a connection. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun had finally taken care of Laughing Song, and the two of them were swiftly rushing toward Lord Grim. Happy's next target was Josukai's Cloud Piercer. That seemed to be the case. Happy was not a team that could be predicted through common principles, and it wasn't like they hadn't focused the opponent's core before. In that team battle against Tiny Herb in the regular season, they had focused and killed Wang Jiaxi's Valkyrie, which had become a textbook example of this strategy. And in conditions where both sides no longer had a healer, attacking the absolute core of the one-man team, Samsara Josukai was simply following a logical train of thought. In the Tiny Herb match, when they'd focused Wang Jiaxi's Valkyrie, even trading 2 for 1 was worth it. However, Samsara immediately detected this clear intention. This confrontation between Josukai and Yishu right now was no less intense than their 1v1 had been last round. On one side, bullets flew. On the other, a weapon shifted between 1,000 forms. But when he saw more of Happy's players running toward him, Josukai knew this couldn't continue. Cloud Piercer began to fight while falling back. If only talking about movement speed, no character could keep up with Lord Grimm. But when a sharpshooter used aerial fire to move, the technique came with the natural protection of firepower. If the opponent wanted to give chase, they had to defend against the bullets that came their way. Neither side had a healer anymore. Decisions like blindly tanking damage now had to be weighed carefully. But Yishu completely ignored this fact about the present situation. Lord Grimm opened his myriad manifestations umbrella charge. Lifting a shield only decreased the damage, it didn't completely negate it. Such a move still meant that he was tanking the damage to attack. But Yishu had other reasons for doing this. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun were just about to arrive, so at this moment, it was of course crucial that he stick to Cloud Piercer so that they had a beautiful 3v1 situation. Even if Cloud Piercer didn't die, any amount of damage was helpful. Right now, the situation was that there were no healers. His Lord Grimm would sacrifice some blood now to see more blood spill from Cloud Piercer later. The charge instantly closed the distance between the two characters. Even Josukai himself knew that there was no way his Cloud Piercer could shake off Lord Grimm in the span of a few steps. When the charge activated, he was already controlling Cloud Piercer to change directions. Sidestep. Cloud Piercer stepped to the side, letting Lord Grimm's charge go past him. The skill allowed the user to move very fast, but because it was so fast, it was difficult to adjust or control the movement. But Yishu was no ordinary person. When he saw Cloud Piercer dodging, he immediately cancelled the charge. Against his own inertia, Lord Grimm twisted his body to change directions. However, Josukai had also predicted that he might be able to make this kind of response, and his character was already backing even further away. He wanted to use these kinds of non-stop direction changes to shake off Yishu's Lord Grimm. This match had seen a cleric brawl, it had seen the cheap trick of Steamed Bun invasion tossing a handful of sand. It had been almost embarrassing for the audience to watch. But when they saw the direct confrontation between Yishu and Josukai, this level, this skill, this technique demonstrated was just going up and up. Changing directions to get away, it was a very foundational technique. But when it came to Yishu and Josukai, with the speed and frequency of these changes, not to mention the feints thrown in, it was almost too much for the eye to see. On the pro players' side, the seniors of the various teams all treated this as teaching material for their rookies to watch and learn. At the same time, their hearts were trembling as well. Josukai didn't manage to have Cloud Piercer shake off Lord Grimm, but Yishu hadn't been able to let Lord Grimm get a solid control of Cloud Piercer. But reaching this point was already extremely difficult. For a sharpshooter to be tangled with Lord Grimm to this extent and still avoid being at a disadvantage, perhaps only Josukai could pull that off. And for someone to struggle with Cloud Piercer like this without letting him slip away, aside from Yishu, there weren't very many who could. WuxaWorldAudio.com. But overall, if this situation continued, it was Josukai who would be at a disadvantage. As long as Yishu could pin down Cloud Piercer like this, he was achieving his goal. Tang Ru and Steamed Bun's characters were growing closer and closer. A brawler had mid-range attack skills, and Steamed Bun Invasion was already preparing his move. Most people had no way of guessing what attack this guy would use. If you thought too deeply, you would end up like Fang Minghua. If your thoughts were too shallow, then, well, Steamed Bun's skill was right there. He could use any number of high-level techniques. Brick. In the end, when Steamed Bun Invasion stepped within attack range, in his hand was still his favorite, brick. The brick flew, but the distance was a bit far. While Cloud Piercer was struggling with Lord Grimm, he lifted his guns bang bang, and the brick was shattered in midair. Whoa, you've got some skill. Steamed Bun's strange words immediately arrived. In all of glory, everyone knew that Joe Sakai very much had some skill. Truly, everyone found Steamed Bun's shocked tone incomprehensible. Boss, I'm coming, watch me. Steamed Bun was still shouting. With this tone, it really seemed as though there were some powerful attack in the making. But if you wanted to say that this was him giving a signal to coordinate with Yishu, that didn't seem too right. A signal for cooperation, it wouldn't come with such a grandiose announcement in the public chat. And so, Steamed Bun Invasion attacked again. Molotov cocktail. Another flying projectile. What use was that? The high-level pro players could no longer take any of Steamed Bun's crude action seriously. The brick had been shattered by Joe Zakai's fire in midair. What could this Molotov cocktail do? What's more, even if Joe Sakai didn't manage to shoot it down, then if it hit, it would just cause some AoE burn damage. Cloud Piercer would just lose some health, that was all. It wouldn't help control the opponent at all. Every class type had a subclass that excelled in control. For the swordsman class, that was the Ghostblade. For the gunner, the Spitfire. The mage, witch. The Nightwalker, warlock. The priest, exorcist. And among the fighter classes, the grappler's so-called control revolved around the strong priority of that class's grab skills, which would simply bind the opponent. If talking about the true meaning of control, the one at the front of the fighters was still the brawler class. Right now, Happy just need to control Cloud Piercer. But then, Steamed Bun Invasion came in with a brick, which was too far and posed no threat. And then, a Molotov cocktail, which, even if it hit the opponent, would pose no threat of control. What kind of bullshit is this? Quote. Among the pro players, Tang Hao could barely stay seated. He felt that this kind of brawler level was embarrassing to the brawler class as a whole. Even though Steamed Bun had played a big role in killing Laughing Song, the skill he'd displayed then was nothing impressive. Everyone sympathized with Laughing Song. No one praised Steamed Bun for being exceptional. And now, in such a critical moment, Yishu was working so hard to keep Joe Sakai from escaping. Steamed Bun Invasion had mid-range attack options he could start supporting early, but these two attacks didn't give Joe Sakai any difficulty at all. Get a brain, won't you? Tang Hao couldn't help but begin shouting. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1700. Red Black Clash. Audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1700. Red Black Clash. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The players laughed up their sleeves. Tang Hao was a rather haughty person, let alone a rookie. He even looked down on many of the famous pro players. Steamed Bun had triggered him. It was as if he were Happy's coach. Seeing Steamed Bun's performance turned his expression unsightly. Steamed Bun Invasion's brainless Molotov cocktail ended up just like what everyone had expected. It was barely an inconvenience for Joe Sakai. However, without a healer, health became much more precious, so Joe Sakai didn't let the Molotov cocktail hit him. Cloud Piercer raised his guns. This time, he didn't even need 2 shots. He sniped the Molotov cocktail from the air with just 1 shot. Boom. The Molotov cocktail shattered and burst into an enormous fireball. The fire spread outwards. Joe Sakai's expression turned pale. Even though it was only for an instant, he clearly felt that the instant the fireball spread outwards, soft mist and steamed bun invasion had been enveloped by it. This was a form of cover. Josekai reacted swiftly, immediately realizing that he had been a bit careless. But that was also in part because of how sloppy steamed bun's Molotov cocktail was. No one had expected this sloppiness to have such a huge effect. The Molotov cocktail provided large-scale cover for Happy. At this moment, there was no time for Josekai to think about too many things. He tanked Lord Grimm's attack, while moving to the side. He was repositioning himself to find a new angle of attack, and to avoid steamed buns and Tangro's potential follow-ups. They're here. Josekai was mainly looking in soft mist and steamed bun's direction. Sure enough, the blazing fireball was split apart in the center by a flash of red. Soft mist dragon breaks the ranks. That was close. It was a good thing Josekai reacted quick enough, predicting what might happen next. If not, Cloud Piercer wouldn't have been able to dodge Soft Mist's dragon breaks the ranks. Soft Mist closed the distance in an instant. Yishu had coordinated with Tangro and Steamed Bun, making sure that Lord Grimm wouldn't obstruct Soft Mist's dragon breaks the ranks. Unfortunately, Josekai had reacted too fast, preemptively dodging it. Dragon breaks the ranks missed. After all, with that type of cover, neither side could see each other. Tangro immediately rushed out with Dragon breaks the ranks, but she didn't know that Josekai had moved away. By the time Soft Mist pierced through the fireball, it was too late for her to adjust her attack. Cancel. Tangro didn't feel bad about wasting the skill. She cancelled Dragon breaks the ranks. However, the momentum brought by the skill wasn't small. Cancelling wasn't the same as finishing the move. There wasn't as much control over her movements. As a result, Soft Mist continued to be pushed forward. Tangro had Soft Mist forcefully turn. Her sliding feet pressed a hole into the ground. Furious Dragon strikes the heart. Another high-level skill. Even when facing Josekai, Tangro didn't back down. In the blink of an eye, her Soft Mist switched places with Lord Grimm, taking the role as the main attacker. Yishu's Lord Grimm moved to her side, becoming her support. Not good. When the pro players saw Yishu and Tangro switch positions, they knew that the two of them together would be extremely difficult to defend against. No matter how capable Josekai was, Cloud Piercer was still a sharpshooter. A 1v2 in close quarters wasn't just a difficult situation, but a dangerous situation. What's more, Steamed Bun Invasion had also charged through the fireball. His hands were waving around in the air. Who knew what ridiculous play he would pull off next? Everyone's attention was focused on this side. Everyone was wondering whether Happy would be able to kill Josekai's Cloud Piercer. The other parts of the battle didn't seem as important. Soft Mist's furious dragon strikes the heart was just about to pierce into Cloud Piercer. Cloud Piercer was trying to dodge, but no one knew if he would be able to. Suddenly, a black shadow flickered between the two. Hua. Two spears, one red, one black, clashed. The unstoppable furious dragon strikes the heart was knocked askew by the collision. The collision had been created by an attack with even higher priority than Furious Dragon strikes the heart. It was the attack that Soft Mist had just used. Dragon breaks the ranks. One autumn leaf. Sun Xiang's one autumn leaf suddenly returned. He hadn't targeted anyone with Dragon breaks the ranks. Instead, he put himself between two characters to protect Cloud Piercer. Tyrant's destruction. One autumn leaf knocked aside Soft Mist's spear. Then, he cancelled Dragon breaks the ranks, and followed with Tyrant's destruction. He was planning on sweeping aside both Soft Mist and Lord Grimm. Tangro refused to back down. She cancelled her furious dragon strikes the heart, and followed with a tyrant's destruction of her own. The two spears collided again. The same skill against the same skill. With both skills maxed, their damage and priority were the same. The winner of the clash would be decided by the character's stats. For Soft Mist, apart from dancing fire flowing flames, she had other silver equipment that Happy had scrambled together. Soft Mist's stats wouldn't lose to most other battle mages in the pro scene, but compared to the battle god, One Autumn Leaf, there was still a clear disparity. The two skills collided, and Soft Mist clearly lost. Not only did One Autumn Leaf's evil annihilation stop the momentum from Soft Mist's dancing fire flowing flames, it continued along its original trajectory. Even so, the power of One Autumn Leaf's attack was reduced significantly. Whether it was speed or damage, the skill was no longer a threat. But One Autumn Leaf had the upper hand. If he switched moves, his would come out before Soft Mist's. Sky Strike. Evil Annihilation suddenly swung upwards. The tyrant's destruction changed into Sky Strike. The slow spear suddenly accelerated. Soft Mist's dancing fire flowing flames had been knocked aside. It wouldn't be easy for her to block this Sky Strike from her position. This was obviously why Sun Xiang had chosen to switch to Sky Strike. The average viewer wouldn't be able to understand this tiny detail. Even if the Sky Strike wouldn't be easy to parry, Tang Rou still didn't back down. She struck back with a Sky Strike of her own. This time, there wouldn't be a collision. It would be a trade. It was a trade, but one came before the other. One Autumn Leaf's was faster. Once Soft Mist was launched into the air, it was hard to say if her Sky Strike would reach One Autumn Leaf. Tang Rou wasn't sure either, but she continued onwards. Bang! She hadn't parried, but the sound of a parry could be heard. Soft Mist's Sky Strike swept forward, but One Autumn Leaf's Sky Strike had been blocked by Lord Grimm's Dragon Tooth from the side. Tang Rou didn't back down, not only because of her confidence in herself, but her confidence in Yishu. She trusted that Yishu would help her when she needed it. One Autumn Leaf's Sky Strike was blocked. WuxRWorldAudio.com. It was too late for him to dodge Soft Mist's Sky Strike. After being hit by dancing fire flowing flames, he was launched into the air. But Tang Rou had Yishu, and Sun Xiang had Zhou Zekai. After being protected by One Autumn Leaf, Cloud Piercer didn't immediately run off. As soon as One Autumn Leaf was launched into the air, a figure appeared behind him. Cloud Piercer had a long sniper rifle aimed steady. Thunder Snipe. Zhou Zekai had Cloud Piercer take out this powerful skill. The long sniper rifle was aimed right at Soft Mist's head. The sparks flying out from the muzzle of the gun seemed to stick to Soft Mist. At this distance, it was impossible for Soft Mist to dodge the Thunder Snipe. Blood burst from Soft Mist's head. A huge loss. The spectators all thought the same. Both sides had gone back and forth. Even though Soft Mist had successfully knocked One Autumn Leaf into the air, the damage from Thunder Snipe was on an entirely different level. What's worse was that One Autumn Leaf was in the perfect position to be attacked, but with the Thunder Snipe, there was no possibility of Soft Mist following up. The knockback from Thunder Snipe was massive. Soft Mist was still stumbling back. Yishu was still there. But Lord Grimm didn't have any attacks that could match Thunder Snipe's damage. The damage from that one snipe wasn't something that he could regain with a single attack. Sword draw. Cold light flickered, a blade unsheathed. Lord Grimm attacked both Cloud Piercer and One Autumn Leaf, while also protecting Soft Mist. It was the best he could do. One Autumn Leaf couldn't dodge while in the air. The sword draw was fast too. He had no time to parry it either. He could only take the hit. However, Zhou Zekai had predicted that Yishu would respond in some way. After successfully landing Thundersnipe, he retreated. It was almost as if Lord Grim and Cloudpiercer were in sync. The sword draw was dodged cleanly. Cloudpiercer retreated. Close combat against close-ranged classes was very unfavorable for a sharpshooter. Josekai took this opportunity to pull apart from Happy's characters. As he retreated, he continued to attack and protect one autumn leaf. At the same time, their sixth player, Du Ming's moon-luring Frost, had finally arrived, and was about to enter the fray. But he was still a bit far from this side of the battle. "I'm here," Steamed Bun typed into the chat. This was a common habit amongst in-game players. Once Steamed Bun became a pro player, he didn't throw this habit away. In the competitive scene, others might be using the chat to wage psychological warfare on the opponents. On the other hand, Steamed Bun used the chat to say meaningless nonsense. "Okay, you're here. So what?" Many of the viewers replied back in Woodley End chapter.